I guess I should start by saying hello. What I'm about to tell you didn't happen to me. It happened to my aunt. Actually, things like this happen to all of my aunts. I wish I could tell every story, but tonight I'll only tell a few. One summer, I stayed at my aunt's apartment in Ankara. It was just the three of us, my aunt and my two cousins. My aunt never liked talking about things like this. She always shut the conversation down when it went too far. But we talked anyway. Late at night, when adults think children are distracted, my cousin started telling a story. It was about my aunt, her mother. And before I go on, you should know something important. This aunt doesn't get scared. Not easily. Not normally. She once told us she could walk alone at 3 in the morning in a village known for its shrines and graves. She said it casually, like it meant nothing. I couldn't even imagine doing that. There was another cousin of mine. He died before I was old enough to remember him. Either I wasn't born yet, or I was barely a year old. He had been sick for a long time. It was the kind of illness that slowly takes someone away, piece by piece, until the person you remember is barely there. For my aunt, his mother, the final days were a blur of hospitals and quiet rooms. After his death, my aunt changed. The house became quieter. The air in it felt heavy, as if it was holding its breath. Every night, when she lay in bed, her thoughts returned to him. It was a ritual she couldn't escape. She would ask herself the same questions over and over. Is he okay? What is it like on the other side? Is he in pain anymore? She didn't want to think about it. She tried to fill her mind with other things' chores for the next day. Memories from before he was sick, anything to build a wall against the grief. But every night, the thoughts came anyway, slipping through the cracks. And every night, she cried. Not loudly, quietly, into her pillow, muffling the sound so her other children wouldn't hear. It was a private grief, a conversation she had only with the darkness. One night, while she was lying in bed, the familiar thoughts circling her eyes were closed. She noticed something dark in front of her. A shape. At first, she thought it was just the darkness of the room. One of those patterns your eyes make when they're shut for too long. A flicker, a shadow behind the eyelid. She didn't think much of it. She shifted, trying to get comfortable, trying to push the image away. But it stayed. So, she opened her eyes. He was standing there, her son, the cousin I never met. He was at the foot of her bed. He didn't look sick. He didn't look pale or weak like he had in his final months. He looked peaceful. He was wearing the clothes she remembered him loving, from a time before the sickness took hold. He stood there for a few seconds, just looking at her, smiling. It wasn't a sad smile, or a pained one. It was just a calm, reassuring smile. Then he raised his hand, and he waved. Not slowly, not sadly, just a simple, clean wave, like you'd give a friend across the street. And then he was gone. No sound, no cold air, no fading light. One moment he was there, and the next, the space was empty. The room was exactly as it had been before. That was the last night my aunt cried for him. After that, she understood something she never said out loud. Wherever he was happy. He was okay. The nightly ritual of questions and tears was over. The question had been answered. She never spoke about it. She told only one person, her sister, my other aunt, and my two cousins, her children, overheard the story by accident, listening from the other room. That's how it reached me, whispered in the dark in that apartment in Ankara. There was another incident. This one happened much later, years after. Again, it was night. My aunt woke up and went to the bathroom. The house was still and silent. When she walked back towards her bedroom, she stopped in the doorway. Someone was standing there by her bed, an old man. He was thin, with stooped shoulders, and he was wearing her nightgown. It was a specific one she kept folded in her wooden chest, not one she wore often. The fabric, meant for her, hung awkwardly on his frame. It was too short, ending somewhere around his knees. And without thinking, without fear, my aunt spoke. Her first instinct wasn't terror. It was a strange sort of practicality. "It's too short," she said, her voice matter-of-fact. "Wait. Let me fix it." She bent down, reaching to pull the fabric down, to adjust the hem. And in that instant, as her hands moved towards him, the old man disappeared. The nightgown, which had been filled by his form just a second before, fell to the floor in a heap. Empty. That was it. No scream. No panic. No running from the room. She just stood there for a moment, looking at the empty piece of clothing on the floor. Then she picked it up, folded it, put it back in the chest, and went to sleep. She told the story the same way she told the other one, without embellishment, without any attempt to make it scarier or more dramatic than it was. It just happened. That night in Ankara, when my cousins finished telling me these stories, I laughed. It sounded strange, unreal, like something from a book, not from our own family. I told myself it was grief, memory, the mind playing tricks on itself after a trauma. The story of the old man? Maybe she was half asleep, a dream bleeding into reality. We try to find logical explanations for things that don't make sense. It's a human instinct. But that night, none of us slept. The stories hung in the air of that small room. We lay in the dark, side by side, listening. Every small sound felt louder than it should have been. A click from the refrigerator. A shift in the old building's foundation. A soft knock somewhere down the hall that was probably just a pipe. We didn't talk. We didn't move. We just listened to the silence and to the sounds that broke it. Morning came eventually, as it always does. And in the daylight, with the sun streaming through the windows, everything felt ridiculous. We laughed about it. We said fear makes people imagine things. We said the house was old and made strange noises. We said it was all in our heads, a story told in the dark to spook each other. We rationalized it all away. But here's the problem. My aunt never tells lies. She gains nothing from these stories. She isn't the type to seek attention or to enjoy frightening people. In fact, she never tries to scare anyone. She doesn't even like remembering them. When we'd bring them up, she'd get a distant look in her eye and change the subject. It wasn't entertainment for her. She says these things happened exactly as she remembers them. Not as dreams, not as imagination, but as events. Real events that took place in her room, in her house. And she says something else. Something she told us only once, after we pushed her to talk about it one day. She said, "Some things don't come to scare you. They come to show you something. And once they do, they leave." I still think about that. I don't know what my aunt saw. I don't know if it was grief manifesting itself in a physical form, or a trick of memory, or something else entirely, something from a world we don't understand. But sometimes, when I lie awake at night, in the quiet of my own room, I think about the way she described it. The complete lack of fear, the absence of panic, just recognition. Like seeing someone you already know, even if you've never met them before. A feeling that this is not a threat. It's just a presence, a message. And I wonder, if I had seen the same thing, if my son had appeared at the foot of my bed after he was gone, would I have screamed? Or would I have waved back? Because whatever visited my aunt that night, it wasn't angry. It wasn't lost. It wasn't trying to haunt her. And it didn't stay?